All systems go. Cleared for takeoff.
What is going on, everybody? We're back, week off from MMA. Man, I realize there is not shit to do on Saturdays. I am very happy the UFC is back. Thankfully, I was a little busy, so it didn't hurt too much. My guy's in here right now. Siggy, my man in here. Zim, I appreciate the background. Looks a little different. I'm at the homie's house doing this. If you watch yesterday's showdown, I don't know what the heck's going on with that Airbnb Wi-Fi. Gonna try on Sunday again, and hopefully it works there, but couldn't risk it with my guy, Big Marley. So appreciate you boys. Our man, Hebrew Cheetah in here as well. 11 fights, Big Marley. Always stinks. 12 is always a threshold that I want. It's nice to see 100K up top. Still decent amount of big favorites. 8 of 11 fights supposed to finish. All 3 of the fights that aren't supposed to finish are women's fights. It's an interesting card. Big prize pools. I'm excited. But again, that 12 threshold is big for me. Montel Jackson, Gutierrez out would have been a banger too. But what's going on? How was last week for you? How are you doing this week?
Yeah, man, the last card was not good. I feel like it was our first card not having somebody over at SHIPIT chop up that first place just because we weren't high enough on that quitter Brundage, really. That as soon as that happened, I stopped watching most of the fights. It was date night after that for me and the wife. So it was a terrible week to like go into a break on. But luckily, we're back. It was only a 1-week break. Decent card this week. And my last win was on an 11-fight card, so maybe that's a good luck thing for me. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. You're good at those 11-fight cards. Hopefully, you can help us out. Yeah, my man Zim and Siggy love some Drew Dober. I always call him a cutie. He is a cutie. We'll be seeing. Good to see your video working, Jim. Yeah, exactly. I'm at the buddy's house. It'll work today. Sunday's the big question. Wi-Fi hasn't stopped since then, so I'm monitoring it. Hopefully it's fine. Sunday we'll figure it out. It'll be good here though. Nate D in here as well. Ross K, what's going on? Appreciate everyone watching live, watching on playback. As always, like button, subscribe button helps us out a ton. And if you do want to join us at ShipItNation.com, plenty of options. We have a 5-day mission that'll take you all. Oh, that's not the right screenshot. $19 for the next 5 days. You'll get MMA, PGA Showdown, NFL, the main slate, the Showdown slate on Monday, Showdown on Sunday night. And not only that, we do have tiers. We have afternoon slate that Marley absolutely crushes, the niche of the NFL. And Marley just shipped 20K 2 weeks ago in that. So everything you need, we got you covered. $19 gets you everything on our site, except the Discord, though. So if you do want to get in the Discord, which is a big piece of our content and our package at ShipItNation.com, monthly package, $69 a month. 6-month package takes you to $59 a month. Then our annual package takes you to $49 a month. So if you want to give us a try, low as $19. Check us out. Do not think you'll regret it one bit. Love what's going on over here. Screenshots have been flowing. All of the MMA content will be up to it. My stuff's all done. Marley stuff is all done as well. Transfer everything over to the site after the show. You guys can get a start on it. 4 p.m. Eastern at the Apex tomorrow for the UFC. Robert Pena, what is good? My man, hope everyone out there doing well. Gonna have a great weekend coming up. Let's get right into it, though, Big Marley. Any initial thoughts on this slate you want to say? Like I said, mine, 8 of the 11 fights supposed to finish. Couple big favorites. What are your initial thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I haven't even really started my lineup building yet. Really, my initial thought is my favorite play on the whole card was going to be Montel Jackson. I had a bet on him, so I was really looking forward to that fight, and then we lost it. So hopefully you could talk some fights into me that I'm not sold on yet, but I think there's a few that I really want to target heavily. But I really like to narrow down my player pool as much as I can each week, and I think this is a hard week to do that. I think there's a few spots, but not fights. There's no fight I want to just X out of my whole player pool. So we'll see how this goes, but I think we're starting off with one of my fades in the first fight.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and we'll get right into it. So you and I help each other out because I agree. I have no fight fades. I usually try and get 4 fades, a couple underweight tags. I did do that, but none of them were a whole fight fade. So let's see the first fight of the night. Women's division, one of the most likely, tied for the most likely to go the distance. Montana De La Rosa, JJ Aldrich, 8,200 for De La Rosa, set or 8K for Aldrich. Montana sitting about minus 145, Aldrich plus 125 on the way back, plus 275 for this fight to go the distance, plus 225 in some other spots though. So as we always say, if you're betting, make sure to line chop, especially in that NFL or especially in MMA, but of course in all sports. Inside the distance props, crazy. Montana De La Rosa plus 275, Aldrich plus 1,100. So pretty much all the finishing equity books think is on the De La Rosa side. I definitely agree as well. Before I'll throw it to you right away though, Marley. A lot of line movement in this one. Aldrich opened minus 270, De La Rosa plus 170 on the way back. Money has kept pouring in on De La Rosa, and she is now the favorite. Do you agree? What are you doing in this fight?
Oh, yeah, I would have loved to hit that opener on De La Rosa. I do think it's a kind of a 50-50 fight where I do give the slight edge to De La Rosa, mostly because I prefer the grappler over the striker in most instances. But JJ is going to be the better striker in this one. But on DraftKings, it's really not going to matter, especially with that plus 1,100 inside the distance line. If she wins here, it's probably all coming on the feet, not landing takedowns, not landing knockdowns. She probably scores in the 60s like most of her wins, and I'm not interested in that, especially at 8K. She's not even one of our cheap 7K underdogs. So she's my favorite fade on the whole card. Aldrich, even if she wins, I don't expect her to score much. So I would rather target the ceiling of De La Rosa. She could get a submission really in any round, but if she's going to win on the cards, I think she's going to be grinding out time on the mat, landing 2 to 4 takedowns throughout the fight. So she probably scores 10x or more if she gets the job done. I prefer her, but she will also be the higher owned one of the two. I could see JJ being hard to take down. Maybe De La Rosa only has one round of dominant takedown success and she just doesn't score well. So I'm fine getting away from this curtain jerker, but for me, it's going to be De La Rosa or pass.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I mean, I think Aldrich is cheeks at the end of the day. She is definitely costing me some money on certain slates. She got the job done for us against Liang Na last time out. Liang Na's a meme, though. At the end of the day, she just can't go 15 minutes, which is why we're on Aldrich there. But yeah, like if I want to play Aldrich, I want her to be absolutely free as a dog shot where 70 could be enough for the optimal. Or again, she's fighting someone like Liang Na who can't even go 15 minutes. It's definitely Montana De La Rosa all day for me in this one. Wish I got that opening line like you did say, like you mentioned. DFS though, yeah. So Aldrich primary striker, Montana De La Rosa primary grappler, clash of styles. Aldrich does throw solid volume, so yeah, could she land 90 significant strikes, keep it on the feet and win? Maybe, but Montana De La Rosa, we're talking upside. Lands over a takedown per 15. Her record is not good if you look at it on paper at 12-8, but you look at some of the people she's fought, like her last 2 losses. Tatiana Suarez, no shame in that whatsoever. Macy Barber, she's solid as well. Before that, though, rattle off a couple wins. I think she's better than the record shows, but I think she's actually underrated for probably how most people look at her. I think she's able to get takedowns. Lipsky got takedowns on her. Her grappling's good, 8 wins by submission. Takedown upside, control time upside, and I'm actually going to say she does get the submission at some point. So first fight of the night, never fun to click on. I do not like Aldrich, though, but I definitely will have some Montana De La Rosa looking to get overweight there. Liang Na had takedowns, too. As Siggy said, yeah, Montana top control all day coming here. And Driggs, glad you see it worked out title. Yeah, you probably missed the way beginning. I'm at my buddy's house, so it's not 100% good over there. The Wi-Fi has been working. We will test it on Sunday. Yeah, that's a scary one, but it's working for this show right now. That's the first fight of the night, though. Yeah, the most likely, tied for the most likely fight to go the distance, but a lot of that's because Aldrich has no finishing upside, at least how the books see it, and I agree. Good inside the distance prop, plus 275 for Montana, though. Wrestling, control time, it's someone I'll be looking. Did exposure on the first fight of the night. Keep it rolling. Next fight on the card, and it's the closestly line fight. You can't get closer than a pick up, minus 110 apiece. Yori Keang taking on Johnny Munoz Jr. Yori Keang, 8,200. Johnny Munoz, 8K. Again, pretty much a straight pick 'em. Some books have Munoz as a minus 115. Yori coming back, minus 105. But pretty much straight pick 'em's how I'm looking at it. Minus 150, this fight to finish. Munoz plus 175. Yori Keang plus 225. I mean, I'm seeing pretty much like the last one, Marley, classic grappler versus striker, or he wants to keep it on the feet. And Johnny Munoz looks to get it on the mat and use his grappling. Do you see it the same way? And how do you see this fight going?
Yeah, it's got a tough one to figure out how it's going to play out, but I do favor Keang on the feet and then Munoz on the ground. I just don't know that Munoz is a good enough wrestler to grind out 3 rounds, maybe 2. And I also don't know that he's good enough at control time to keep Keang down in this one. So I am going to side with Aori Keang. I think he's in play for the knockout. That would be where his ceiling is coming from. But if he goes out there, is taken down twice, held down for 4 to 6 minutes, and then wins a decision, he might not even score 10x here. So I think it's another fight where we don't have to target it, but they do both have some upside. So I definitely like both sides more than the last fight. I expect Munoz to be a little bit higher owned, so that's another reason to like Keang. So I'll go with Keang. I'll pick him to get a TKO. So maybe that leads me overweight to him, but like I said, I haven't built lineups yet. If I end up with 15% Keang, I'd be fine with that as well. But I do plan on being more exposed to him than Munoz. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Pulling the hoop, he's wore off on me the past 2 days too much. But no, I'm with you. It's obviously one of the hardest fights to pick, and that's why it's a straight pick 'em. But I like it. I agree with you. I think Keang's going to probably come in a little lower owned. He's $200 more. I'm hoping that Munoz is actually going to get some steam. I'm still hoping that, where he gets some -120, -125. Maybe people see that, and then he's even higher on 200 savings, a small favorite, the grappler there. But yeah, for a pick, I'm on Keang's side as well. I don't think his takedown defense has been solid. Excuse me. I think his get-up game is good. And Munoz, I just don't think he's not even close to the wrestlers Cody Durden is. Durden, he took him down 5 times, but Keang was able to work his way back up. Munoz, I think his path is he needs to take the back to survive a 4 minutes, just hold him on the ground, get the control time there. I don't think his wrestling from top position, he's going to flow from full guard to side guard to full mount. I don't think his wrestling's on that level. I don't even think his takedown entries will be good enough to get a lot. Could I be wrong? Sure. And if I am wrong, Munoz does have a lot of upside. 11 fight card. I play multiple lineups. I recommend people found out the hard way, or someone mentioned in chat, just got into MMA. I'm learning MMA might not be a single entry sport. It might be a MME sport. Yes, we've been saying that for a little while, because not only do you usually need go 6 for 6, you need actually good scores to go 6 for 6 to have the stone nuts. So it's an MME, the $3 they got out there. Now it's 150 max. I'm cheaper too. I'm mixing in this fight. Think Keang's going to be lower owned. I think his takedown defense is good enough. I think on the feed, he's going to make Munoz pay, but I wrote it up. This is a fight I know I'm going to have too much of, and very well likely if it goes a decision, it's not going to be on the optimal. So I'll take the lower owned fighter, Keang, keep it on the feet. Munoz does have that grappling upside though. The fight is supposed to finish, so right in the mid-tier, it's good to target. However, there's a lot of good fights in the mid-tier, and you see this one, the same price as Montana and the Aldrich fight, $8,200 for Keang and De La Rosa, $8K for Munoz and Aldrich. I prefer Montana to Keang for the same price. I prefer Munoz to Aldrich for the same price. How would you rank that before you go to the next fight?
I think I agree. I just agree with you.
Cool. Love it. Do we know if Munoz recovered from Santos or for the shots from Santos? I assume he has coming back. But yeah, he also gravely got him in one shot. The chin is definitely a little questionable. My man Sheets, what's going on, Sheets? Nice to be back again. Anybody out watching, like button, subscribe button, helps us out a ton. Let's keep it rolling. Next fight on the card. Another fight that I think I shouldn't say another, I guess, but cumulative ownership will be one of the lower owned fights on the card. Kanaka Marata taking on Vanessa Demopoulos, 8,900 Marata, 7,300 for Demopoulos. Marata coming in as a big favorite, about -315, plus 265 on the way back for Vanessa, plus 190 this fight to finish. Marata plus 335 inside the distance. Demopoulos plus 400. So just looking at the inside of the distance price, the nature of this slate, Marata's not going to be owned much at all. It's an 11-fight card. If you play her to get different with chalkier other options. However, I'm looking at it. She can wrestle, Big Marley. Vanessa has no takedown defense. She's a primary grappler who's fine getting taken down to work armbar from guards and stuff off her back. I mean, man, takedown should be there. We saw it in her first fight, Marata, that is. 5 takedowns, significant strikes are low, though. Got top control, about 88 DK points. I don't want 88 DK points, but for someone that's going to be low owned, an 11-fight card looking to get different at some spots, feels gross, but I think I'll be overweight on Marata. Again, nature of the slate, the ownership. Hope she wrestles. I think she has success with takedowns. I think she can stay safe on top. Is that enough, though, in a 15-minute decision? Because I don't really want 88. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, yeah, that's basically what she did in the first fight, getting 88 points with almost 10 minutes of top control. That same thing is in play here. She's just not striking enough on the ground for her to have that 120-point ceiling with the wrestlers that we like. And I also think that Demopoulos would be fine just hanging out on her back, not trying to get back up to her feet to lead to more takedowns. So I do see it hard for Marata to get over 100 here, but if she's going to be low owned, I think she's fine as an ownership play because I would expect her to score around around 10x or more if she gets it done here. And I would think that it's coming through the wrestling. If this fight is a striking match, it's just a full fade. Neither one of them are going to score here. Demopoulos is really just submission or bust for her to have any sort of ceiling. I think she's going to have to get an armbar from guard. It's going to be in play. I think she'll have opportunities at it, but I doubt I'd go there. I'd probably max it out at 10% Demopoulos, something like that. And then I don't want too much Marata either. I might get around 15% Marata, but I'm not going to be checking my DraftKings scores early on this card because these first 4 or 5 fights I'm just not too interested in. It's going to all come on the main card for me. I'm okay with either side of this fight, but I think it's my least favorite on the card, or at least one or two of my least favorite on the card.
Yeah, if I had to fade a full fight, both sides, I think this would be the fight I would pick. Again, I don't know. I'm going the Marata side. I lean that side for the ownership. A minus 315 favorite. Wrestling's there. But if you're on the other side and you want some dogs on this card, you love the Pifers, the Dobers of the world, Dawsons of the world, and you just need a fade up top and you want another dog in there, I don't think mixing in Vanessa is crazy by any means too. I rather the Marata side to get a little different. There's enough dogs on this card that I'm going to mix in and play. Again, if you have none of this fight, I think you're totally fine. I think Marata gets takedowns, can stay safe, hoping for like 100, something like that. And that 8,900, I mean, Piper's expensive, Dober's expensive, Dawson's expensive. You're getting at least 400 savings with Marata to 9,300, and then Dawson 9,400, Piper 95, or Piper's 93, Dober's 95. So just the salary and the nature of the slate, the ownership getting a little different. If Marata has a chance to solo ship or 5 uniques or 5 dupes or something instead of 50, that's something I'll take a shot on. So again, more larger field stuff, thinking about getting different. This fight will be pretty low owned, cumulative though, probably the lowest owned on the card. Let's keep it rolling. You said you didn't have too much interest in this next one. I definitely have some interest. Mateus Mandanka, Nate Maness, 9K Mandanka, 7,200 for Nate Maness. Mandanka coming around minus 220 to minus 250, about plus 190 on the way back from Maness. This fight's minus 160 to finish. Mandanka plus 135, Nate Maness plus 300. I'll throw it right to you. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I just kind of think that Mandanka has Maness covered everywhere, so he's my preferred play in this one. Maness does have 2 scores where he scored over 100 DraftKings points, but he really got his ass kicked in the first round of those fights, and then he came back and got a finish.
The Gravely fight costed so much. Then, oh, gosh.
Yeah, man, I know I was on Grave. I actually think I was on both of the other guys. So yeah, I took losses in both of those. So yeah. But I think Mandanka's pretty damn good. And we said this going into his UFC debut. He just had a really tough test in that UFC debut. Now he's got a much easier one, and I think he's the better, more dangerous fighter everywhere. But I was really going back and forth whether I think he's going to finish or not. And I think if he doesn't finish, I would take the under on 10x in a decision for him. So I really want to pay up if I can. So he would be more of an ownership play for me. But on the Maness side, I'm not too interested in him. I think he's in play as a live dog, more so in a decision, I would think. But I don't see any real edges for him in this one. So it's really Mandanka or pass for me, but I prefer to pay up if I can.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm trying to look right now at weigh-ins. This was a fight I was keeping a close eye on. So far, every fighter has made weight. I'm seeing Felipe Lins might be the only one that hasn't weighed in yet, looking at MMA Junkie, and maybe it's just not updated yet. So, yeah, it looks like they all made weight, and this fight, both fighters made weight as well, which is important because Mandanka usually fights at 135, and Maness has fought most of his career at 135. And if you look up Nate Maness weigh-in picture or something, he looked awful. He looked like a skeleton last time out. I think it was against Tagir. So they both made weight, which is good to see. I just don't know if I think Mandanka comes out like usual, really fast, 24 years old, shoot to box guys with Charles Oliveira, all those guys, Daniel Santos, very, very good training partners there. All those guys, they throw a lot of volume, they can grapple, they're well-rounded. I see all of that with Mandanka. I mean, Basharat's a complete stud. He's like the Diego Lopez. We talked a lot about these guys recently. A loss in their debut, but their stock gains, and then they come back as a big favorite. Is it too far? I don't know. I definitely could be a little too far. I don't think Nate Maness is a bum by any means, but the power advantage goes to Mandanka. He took down Basharat twice, so I think he can take down Nate Maness. Does he have I guess I'll ask you this. Do you think Mandanka can keep the pace? Because he's going to come out fast, I believe. Do you think he can keep that pace for all 15? Because we know Nate Maness can. He can take a beating and come back after. This is a fight I'm looking to have a good amount of exposure because I think Mandanka's early for a bonk early, and I think Nate Maness, pretty low-owned dog in that range. If he just takes over, I trust his cardio, and Mandanka slows. I wouldn't be surprised he's not on the optimal either. So I like this fight. What are your thoughts on that, though, the cardio?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that he doesn't keep that pace, but I would think that he wins the first, second round. Maybe Maness gets the third. But yeah, if we're going to a decision at all with Mandanka, I just don't think it's going to be great. So I'm really playing him more so for his finishing equity, which is like plus 135 inside the distance. Maybe I max out at that. What's that, like 44%, something like that. Yeah, that sounds like way too much, to be honest with you. I'd probably want more like 30% max on Mandanka for me, because if he does go all 3 rounds, and let's say Maness wins the 3rd round, I don't think Mandanka's scoring a whole lot in that 3rd, but I don't think he gasses out to a point where he just fails and Maness finishes him that way. So I would think cardio holds up enough at least to get to the judges.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm definitely going to have both sides of this fight. So just looking at the general overview, and like people are going to want one of Dober, Pfeiffer, or Grant Dawson, 9,500, 9,400, 9,300. All 3 of them are minus 175 or better to finish. Dawson has the 5 rounds to work with. Pfeiffer, Dober, huge favorites with great inside the distance props. So if you just ignore those 3, which I'm not, I play a lot of lineups. I'll definitely have some like that. But initially, if you just ignore those 3, play a Mandanka, play a Marata, you can eat more chalk at other spots and get on a little different roster construction. So I'll be looking to do that in this one. I think Mandanka is going to be a fun fighter in the UFC. So fun fighters, I usually like targeting both sides of. Nate Maness, pretty low-owned dog, will be one I take a shot on down there. I think Mandanka has first-round finishing upside. So I like this fight. I'm picking Mandanka, though, the younger fighter. I expect improvements every time out. And against Basharat, there's no shame in that. So give me Mandanka in this one, but a pretty fun one in my opinion. So I'll have some Montana De La Rosa, some of that second fight, and some Marata. So maybe I'll be overweight on these first couple of fights because I think ownership will be in check and more ownership later. We'll see how that goes, though. Let's keep it rolling. Next fight on the card, Marley. We got Karolina Kowalkiewicz taking on Diana Belita, 8,600 Kowalkiewicz, 7,600 Belita. Another woman's fight that is favored to go the distance, tied for the first one, plus 275 for this fight to finish. Karolina is about minus 140 to minus 150. Belita plus 120 on the way back. Karolina plus 400 inside the distance. Belita plus 575. What do you see?
Yeah, I think this is I was going to say sneaky good fight to target, but now that the line is really closing up, I don't think Belita is going to be sneaky, but KK should go pretty low owned in this one. And I expect this to be a high volume striking match. And even in the striking match, I think KK can score 90 plus points in a decision win. So I think KK is a sneaky target in this fight, but I do think it is close to a 50-50 fight. I took Belita at like plus 140. mainly because of the line. I just thought it should be a lot closer to 50-50. And even if we think it plays out like KK looks like a minus 170, we got 3 blind judges who have no idea, and I would still rather take my chances on the underdog. So I was just talked into Belita, but I think that the winner is going to score 80-plus points either way. It's going to be a lot easier for Belita to hit the optimal lineup at 7,600 with that score, but at the same time, she's going to be twice as much owned, maybe 3 times as much owned as KK here. So now that the field has caught up, maybe I'm more interested. I mean, not more. I'm sorry, I have a bet on Belita, but maybe for DraftKings, I want a little bit more exposure than I did earlier in the week on KK. I'm going to be targeting this fight somewhat heavily, and I don't think that the field will be, making it a point to get this in their lineups. I think it's going to be a fun 3-round high-paced striking match. Give me Belita to win, but I'll mix them both in.
You couldn't have said it any better. I think Belita does catch some steam because it's not great. It's not fun clicking a lot of these dogs down here. Belita, great win equity for the price. It's supposed to go all 15 minutes. She lands over 6 significant strikes per minute. She just grades out really well there. And in a win, even if she gets you 75, 80, that could be enough. But we're talking GPPs. I want ceiling, and I think Belita will be 2 times as high owned or something. I prefer the Carolina side if I had to pick in DFS. However, you can see a path for sure for her to be on the optimal. Throws good volume herself, lands 5.5 or 5.65 significant strikes per minute. And she's mixed in her wrestling a lot more recently than she has early in her career. Belita, not good takedown defense, really doesn't have much off her back. I think Carolina could mix in takedowns here as well. Again, just trying to make cases for a lower owned fighter. However, I'm trying to be underweight on this fight. I think Belita comes in over-owned. Carolina gets some leverage off of Belita, but still at 8,600, you don't love the finishing upside. Others in her range do have better. So I don't know how much I'll have of her, but I do want more, and I expect to have more Carolina than Belita for the ownership there. But yeah, we're in lockstep. Great bet, plus 140. Now we're on plus 120. But we talk about, at least we try to a lot on this show. Betting and DFS sometimes completely different. Ownership game, how much you win, when you win, and betting, you want the best line value. So I agree with you. Great bet, though. But I think Belita over-owned, Carolina under-owned. Not picking Carolina in this one. I think she can mix in takedowns. She's been impressive as of late. Not against the best of names, but I just don't really think Belita is all that great either. More than likely, hopefully in this fight is not on the optimal, though. G. Kiefer, what's going on, man? Hope everything going well with you. Good luck to you this weekend. He took second in the 555 about a month ago, so good to see you in here. I think you'll have some interest in this one, Big Marley. Ion Cutelaba taking on Felipe Lins, 8,300 Cutelaba, 7,900 for Lins, about minus 135, minus 140 for Cutelaba, plus 115 for Lins. This fight's minus 325 to finish. Cutelaba minus 110 inside the distance. And Felipe Lins plus 215. So we've seen a lot of line movement in this fight, but in the past couple days or so, Cutelaba was all the way like minus 160. Lins has taken a good amount of steam since. It makes sense to me, man. Cutelaba, we're not going to say any breaking news. Cutelaba pretty much round 1 or bust. He's a wild man. He can wrestle. He can strike. He's powerful. He has all the goods early. He doesn't know how to pace himself. Except the Devin Clark fight, he did it there and he looked really good. But usually he loses. If it's not first round, he'll lose the second. He'll probably get finished in the second or the third. Lins has the lasting. He can go 15 minutes. He has to survive early. He's looked pretty good as of late too. DFS, Cutelaba fights are always somewhere I want to go on both sides. And it's priced great, 8,300, 7,900. This fight will get ownership, no doubt. Rightfully so, though. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, top 3 fight to target in GPPs. I definitely think Cutelaba is the more skilled fighter of the two. I would give him the striking edge in the first round. I think he's more dangerous in the first round. I think he's a better wrestler as well. I also think he'd be okay in a 3-round fight against Lins, just because I don't see Lins pushing a pace to really gas out Cutelaba. I think it would be more Cutelaba just beats the hell out of this guy for the full first round, and he gasses out just from the output that he had in that first round. But yeah, so I prefer Cutelaba, especially at 8,300, man. If he was closer to 9K, maybe it would switch me over to the Lins side. But either way, the winner of this one should score well, and I just think Cutelaba comes out hot. And if he gets that first round win, he's on the optimal lineup. but I also think he's in play for a second round win. I think he's in play for a decision win where he would score over 10x. Lins, he could finish him in any round also. He would be more interesting if I knew that he was going to be like half as owned as Calaba, but that would get me more on the Lins side. But it's just going to be a fight where I target in most of my lineups. I probably want in 85% of my lineup, something like that. Maybe I'm looking at 50% Calaba, 35% Lins. I'm not sure yet, but I would imagine it's going to be around that. And if I'm making one lineup, give me Calaba first round knockout.
Yeah, no, I definitely think, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he won a decision here. It's just what Calaba, you don't know what Calaba is going to come out. Like against Justin Jacoby, he's not known for pushing a pace or anything too. Calaba gets like 8 takedowns on, just Jacoby gets up, he dumps him, but he gassed himself out. Like Jacoby did nothing. He just didn't know how to pace himself. He paced himself against Devin Clark. Most fights, though, he doesn't pace himself. So I wouldn't be shocked. That's why Calaba is just such a wild card, just fun targeting his fights. However, I think he'll be roughly 40% owned, something like that sounds about right. Lins, 28%, something in that range too. Just with those numbers on an 11-fight card, I prefer Lins that way, but I agree with you. Like all the upside is definitely with Calaba. Lins, I think, is a better live bet. If you're talking betting right here, I think Calaba wins the first couple minutes, wins the first round at a good clip. Man, I don't know. That 40% with Calaba, like it's right. I love this fight. I'm kind of going to let Solver dictate how it is. I know I want at least 30% for both guys. If I have a little more Lins, a little more or Calaba, I'm fine with it. As far as a pick, I'm picking Lins to survive early and win second and third round. Again, not very confident one bit. It's hard for me to outback some of these one-rounder bust guys. He could win a decision, sure, but I think more than likely he comes out the normal Calaba, pushes the pace, and he doesn't have a gas tank in the third round. So I'm going to take Lins. But for DFS, yeah, Lins could win. If Lins wins this fight, there's a chance he's still not optimal. If Calaba wins this fight, of course there's a chance, but you'd expect, if it's decision, I'm expecting some wrestling, some top control and all that. Otherwise, he has way more finishing upside, especially early. So I get the play. He should be higher owned. I think this fight's probably appropriately looking 40% roughly, 28% roughly. I think that's properly owned for this fight. And I want at least 30% of both. So I'm picking Lins, though. Survive early. We'll be looking for a live bet spot on this one as well. Keep it rolling again. Like button, subscribe button. We appreciate it a lot. And if you do want to join us at SHIPITNation.com, if you just want to give us a try, as low as $19, 5 days, get our MMA content, PGA Showdown, MLB playoffs still going on, resumes on Saturday. Of course, you get NFL on Sunday, NFL Showdown on Monday. All the content except Discord. If you do want on the Discord, though, which I do recommend, monthly, 6-month, and the yearly package, head over to Ship It Nation. Get in the Discord if you do join one of those packages as well. Let's keep it rolling, Big Marley. A couple more fights. 5 more fights to talk about. We got, is it 1? Yeah, I think it's 5.
Yep,
5 or 4. Bill Algio taking on Alexander Hernandez. Algio, 8,400. Hernandez, 7,800. Another closely lined fight. Hernandez about minus 130. Algio plus what? Wait, am I seeing? Did the line completely flip? It definitely completely flipped. Oh, okay. Wow. So I'm just seeing this. So going all the way back, this it changed overnight in this one. Bill Algio was a favorite the whole time throughout the whole week.
Yeah, that was within the last hour or two.
Yeah, it got steamed heavy. That's very interesting to note. It's Friday. The slate doesn't start for an hour or for a day and 2 hours or whatever. So people are going to see this. This is important. So I picked Alexander Hernandez in this fight. Now he's the favorite, and he's $600 cheaper. Alexander Hernandez is going to be one of the highest owned. Everyone is guessing Algio is injured. Yeah, that's the only guess I have. Man, I don't know. We're all talking through this, but Hernandez is going to be one of the highest owned fighters on the slate now at 7,800 as a favorite. I picked him to win. I was definitely on that side, but that was when I thought ownership with the line was going to be relatively similar. What are we going to do with this one now, Big Marley? This is a game theory. I mean, we're talking through this because we just saw it. But, yeah, the dog is now the favorite with substantial line movement late, and that usually injured, rumors, something like that. So I'm going to be monitoring it closely. But what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into it and then keep my eye on this line, see if it keeps moving. I mean, if it's that apparent that he's injured, we might even lose the fight, which would suck with 10 fights on the card. But I'm on the Algio side, so it really just makes me like Algio even more, seeing him come in at lower ownership and then Hernandez come in at higher ownership. So it just makes me like Algio more, Hernandez less. But I think that the first round is going to be the closest. Hernandez is dangerous. He might even be better in the first round, but I think Algio is going to be better in the second and the third round. I think he could beat him on the feet. I think he could take it to the ground. But I just see Hernandez kind of tiring out and then Algio picking up the pace as Hernandez starts to slow down. Hernandez maybe looks for a way out in the third, gives up his back, Algio rear naked choke, third round. That's how I see it going down. So I don't know, man. The line, I'm just now seeing it, so it's interesting. I don't really understand. I don't know that I would favor. I would like to hear a case, I guess, for Hernandez to be a minus 130 favorite, because I just don't agree with it. I think that the line was right originally. So yeah, top of my head, I'm still sticking with Algio as my preferred play. I think he gets a late finish here, and less ownership makes me like him more.
Yeah. Yeah, this has me. I did not expect. Very rarely do you see. I mean, what? That's like 40 cents with 50 cents. I mean, that was. It looks like one better or a couple better just came in and put the hammer on it. But I don't know. I'm definitely going to be looking into this. All of our content will be up. We'll be in the Discord too. But I was on Alexander Hernandez. I thought he wins round one at a good clip. I like Alexander Hernandez. He can wrestle. He has power on the feet. Bill Algio more death by 1,000 cuts kind of guy. Hernandez has one-shot power. So I thought Algio, the longer the fight goes, he could start taking over. But again, I think Alexander Hernandez wins round one. Still, his cardio has gotten better. He's had some fights. It's blanking me the exact fights that he's absolutely just died in the second and third round. But cardio has looked better as of late. This fight is at 145. He did make weight, which is worth mentioning, but at my first 2 fights ago, he cut down to 145. Last fight, he fought Jim Miller at 155. Now he's back at 145. He made weight. He looked good last time doing it, so I wasn't worried. Gosh, so this line movement, you don't see this very often. Right now it's Algio for game theory for me for sure. If he's going to be way less owned, but if he's hurt or something like this, I don't know. So.
I don't know. Looks like a Gambas move to me, to be honest with you. It looks like Gambas hit it, and then his followers took it further than it needs to go.
It could for sure be that way too. So, yeah, I'm picking Alexander Hernandez, but now I'm more interested in Bill Algio, assuming that Hernandez might be 2 times higher owned, 3 times higher owned, something like that. I expect Hernandez to be one of the most popular fighters on the slate now at 7,800 is the favorite. So you guys just got all of our thoughts talking out loud. Because I didn't know this line movement switch like that. So yeah, Hernandez is the pick. Algio, I'm now more interested in for DFS, but I'm going to be looking into what possibly could have changed that line, injury, whatever that may be. Very interesting fight and made this card even a lot more interesting at 11 fights with the dog as the favorite. So interesting one there. A couple more fights left on this card. Good fights as well. Next one. Drew Dober, Ricky Glenn, 9,500 Dober, 6,700 for Ricky Glenn. Big favorite is Dober, one of the biggest on the card, sitting around minus 400. Ricky Glenn plus 300 on the way back. This fight's minus 270 to finish. Dober minus 210 inside the distance. Ricky Glenn plus 700. Dober nice plus 135 in round 1-2. I just don't really know what the UFC is doing with this one, Big Marley. Dober on an absolute run. Very good wins as well. Then Rafael Alves, nasty body shot. Terrence McKinney, round 1. Bobby Green knocks him out in round 2. Matt Frevola KOs him. He checks him. I mean, Matt Frevola's very good, and he's on quite the run himself. Big fight coming up. Now he gets Ricky Glenn. I mean, man, Ricky Glenn definitely out of his prime. He's getting up there in age a little bit. He's still younger than I initially thought he was. I think he's like 34 only. But in fight years, it feels like 39 to me. Dober still got it. He got his chin cracked, but he still is known for a great chin. Crisp boxing. He has a lot of power. I think it's Dober in round 1. What do you see?
Yeah, I agree. Dober first round. I think he's better everywhere. He is coming off a knockout loss, though. And maybe the chin just starts declining now. So I think Glenn is in play for a puncher's chance, who will be probably the lowest owned fighter on the card. But aside from that, I just don't really see any advantages for Glenn here. So I probably end up fading him with 20 or less lineups. And then Dober, I mean, I want as much Dober as I can afford since I'm picking him to get that first round knockout, but I don't expect him to want to wrestle too much in this fight. If he wants to play it safe because he was just knocked out, he could go out there and win an 85-point decision, and that's not going to cut it. So I just think it's really he's competing with Dawson and Pfeiffer, who are cheaper than him. I'm going to be mixing them all in. So we'll see how much Dober I can get, but I see myself being around 50%, around field weight on Dober.
Yeah, I don't know, because Pfeiffer, Dawson, Drew Dober. I'm looking at all. I am, and most of the field I think is looking at them all pretty similar. Dawson will be the highest owned just because extra 10 minutes. He has the wrestling and grappling, so he'll definitely be in a tier of his own. Then I think Pfeiffer will be higher owned because that $200 does go a long way. So Dober at 9,500 just as the most expensive guy. I think he's lower owned than both of them. I think he gets a first round knockout, so I do like it for sure. But all of those guys, like if Dawson, Pfeiffer, Dober, any of those three, mix and match them, I wouldn't be surprised in any order who's the highest scoring to the least highest scoring of those three. So I definitely like Dober, though. I think he walks through Ricky Glenn in this one. Not the fight doesn't really make much sense to me for Dober now going all the way down to Ricky Glenn, but get back right spot. I think Dober KOs him. And you agree. 3 fights left on the card. Joaquin Buckley, Alex Morono, 8,700 Buckley, 7,500 for Morono. Minus 175 is Buckley, plus 150 on the way back for Morono. Minus 210 for this fight to finish. Buckley minus 110. Morono plus 325. What do you like in this one?
I kind of like the underdog in this one. Not really I don't really like Morono's ceiling, but I like his chances to win. I just think the line should be a little bit closer than it is. I think the ceiling is on Buckley's side. That's what the first round knockout, maybe get a second round knockout could get him there as well. But if he's not getting a first or second round knockout at 8,700, I don't think he's going to be on the optimal lineup because I don't think he looks to wrestle. If he does look to wrestle, I think that's what puts Morono in play for a 90-point ceiling, just wrapping up a guillotine. So I think it's really knockout or bust for Buckley, and I'm not big on those type of fighters, so I prefer Morono stay alive in that first round. I think he can come back, win the second and the third just on volume alone, but I don't expect Morono to wrestle much either. I don't expect Morono to finish Buckley, and I also don't expect Morono to have like that Reese McKee type volume because Buckley's so much more dangerous than McKee, so you really can't just come at him without being worried about the KO coming your way. So I don't think we're going to have crazy volume. I just think that in the second and the third round, it could be higher volume. Give me 29-28 Morono, and he's in play as a live underdog. But I might end up with more exposure to like a Lens who I'm picking to lose just because he has a higher ceiling. So I'm not sure. I'll be mixing in Morono, mixing in Belita because they're underdogs that I am picking to win. But I don't see either one of them, breaking the slate with 100+ points. So I'm not going to make them all in plays. Just they're my 2 favorites to get wins as underdogs.
No, I pick in Morono by decision. Buckley has like everything you say. I reiterate, it makes it easier on 11 fight card when you just don't need 100+ from all your dogs, or at least you don't think you do. So I got a question though. Nate Maness, like I think Maness has a higher ceiling than Morono, a little better inside the distance props. I just think Mandanka is going to bring the fight more to him, whereas Buckley, like this fight could play out at range. People talking like, yeah, Morono keeps distance, a good jab. He does throw over 5 significant strikes per minute. What are your thoughts there, though? Because I do think Maness has a little more upside, but I'm picking Morono to win. And people are mentioning Morono struggled on this at weigh-ins. He looked awful. He always looks awful at weigh-ins, so I'm not surprised there. I'm glad to see he did make weight, though. But it doesn't move the needle much. He definitely struggles making weight. So Maness, I guess, or Morono for upside.
Yeah, I would say Maness is more likely to finish than Morono, but I think that Morono is just much more likely to win in a decision than Maness. Like I think that Morono is kind of the more skilled fighter in 2 of the 3 rounds, where I don't think Maness is the more skilled fighter in any of the 3. Maybe third round.
No, I agree. Like I'm picking Morono's just a very well-rounded MMA fighter. 6 KOs, 7 subs, 9 decisions. If it gets on the mat, very good jiu-jitsu on the feet. Doesn't have that one-shot power really as much, but can throw the jab, keeps good distance, mixes it up. Just everything I like when I'm betting a dog. And Buckley, the rightful favorite. But yeah, talking DFS, I agree with everything you said. It feels kind of round 1 or bust for him being on the optimal. Sure, he could make a round 2 work as well, but lands a little over 3.5 significant strikes per minute. Morono does well keeping distance. I don't think round 1 is likely for Buckley. And if he doesn't get there, I think I'd rather take shots at other guys in his range. So Buckley in round 1 plus 300. Mandanka is plus 240, I believe it was. He is a little more expensive. But at the end of the day, Buckley ain't going to go for takedowns. I'd be shocked if he did. It's going to stay on the feet. That's what I'm thinking. Mainly needs a first round KO. And give me the dog. I'm picking Morono anyway. The chin is getting questionable. He's been cracked a lot as of late. Buckley, grown-ass man, all the power. So I'm not saying fade, but yeah, it's Morono side for me.
Yeah, and I should say that Morono is one of those guys I just cannot get right, man. If I pick him, he loses. If I pick against him, he wins. So maybe I'll get some more Buckley just for that reason. But I see myself being underweight to Buckley, overweight to Morono.
Yeah, he's tough, man. He fights up to his competition. He's just a steady fighter in a lot of close fights. But I agree with you. I haven't got very many Morono picks either, so take that how you guys will. 2 fights left on the card. Again, like button, subscribe button if you haven't hit it already. Appreciate when you guys do. Everyone watching live, watching on playback. Good luck this week. A lot of action. College football, MMA, NFL, PGA Showdown, MLB. A lot of money to be made. We will help you out at SHIPITNation.com. Joe Pyfer, Abdul Razak Alhassan, 9,300 for Pyfer, 6,900 for Alhassan. Another huge favorite in Pyfer. Has seen some line movement in this one. It's now minus 370 minus 370 Pyfer, plus 295 on the way back for Alhassan. Pyfer got all the way up to minus 500. Saw yesterday, good amount of money came in. Alhassan, little monies came back on Pyfer here. Fight most likely to finish on the card at minus 550. Pyfer minus 250 inside the distance. Alhassan plus 400. And Pyfer in round 1 plus 110. Going to be one of the highest owned on the card. However, like Dawson's right in this range, who I think will be higher owned. Hernandez now being a favorite as the dog might make Pyfer Dober a little more expensive. It's still, I'll let you go first. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's one of the best fights to target, highest inside the distance line on the card. But man, I was doing this fight when Pyfer was closer to minus 500, and I was like, what the hell? Like, the line almost talked me into picking out Abdul Razak Alhassan outright. But I do think it's first round or bust for Alhassan. I just think that the first round is going to be very close, especially if Pyfer wants to strike. I'm not as sold on Pyfer as Dana White is. I don't think he's great, but I do think after round 1, he really starts to take over here. And if he wants to wrestle, he can just make it a clear fight. He could look like he's minus 500. But if there's a first round knockout in this fight, I think it's a lot closer to a coin flip. So the way I put it down in my notes was I would prefer Pyfer. If I'm making one lineup, he's more likely to make it in that lineup, I would think. But if I'm making a lot of lineups and I'm putting percentages on it, I end up with more Pyfer. I probably have 50% or more Pyfer, but that's going to put me right alongside with the field. Whereas I probably end up with 30% Alhassan, but that'll put me overweight to the field. So you can take that however you want. I don't really have a preferred play in this fight. It's my favorite fight to target both sides of. I'll have plenty of each. I really like Dawson and who's the other one around there? Dober. Yeah. So I feel like Dawson, Dober, Alhassan will be somewhat popular combinations. And I like it too. But if the field likes it, I'll probably try and find myself getting away from that combination and maybe mixing in one of those big favorites. But I don't know, man. It's just a fight where I want both sides of it. And I think after round 1, it starts to get easier for Pyfer, and he takes over, probably finishes in the second or the third. He just has more ways to score. So I guess he would be my preferred play, and he will be my pick to get a finish at some point, whether it's knockout or submission. I think submission props are somewhat interesting at like plus 500 or more. Because if he does want to play it safe, just take this fight to the ground. You have no worries there. And I think he's in play for the submission.
Yeah. So the duel, I've been going back and forth. It came one of the first things you said, it's hard to find fades on this card. And I usually try to find 4 with 20 teams or less. You give yourself more of a narrow path. And I was going back and forth with Abdul. Is he a fade? Am I going to get some? All of that. I put him as a fade right now, and yes, it is scary. That first minute will be scary. I'll tell you, part of my thought process, again, I live in a legal betting state. This is the second last fight on the card. I will know exactly. I have a good idea. This lineup's live. Hey, I can win this amount. Like, what are the dupes on it? All this stuff. If I have a very good team with Pfeiffer, like that Alhassan could ruin me for, I don't need to put much money on Alhassan to get a good amount back. And I can use this as a little hedge that way. Again, the last fight could change things, but that's my thought there. And also, I just like Pfeiffer, if he's struggling on the feet or he takes one shot, I think he'll be like, all right, we're wrestling, we're grappling. Abdul has nothing off his back. That's easy. I think on the feet, I mean, Abdul's a grown-ass man. If you guys just watch this, you don't really watch MMA too much. If you Google him, you'll probably want to get some exposure to him. He hits like a truck. He's very big. However, his cardio is awful. He doesn't really have anything off his back. I think if he wins, it's by head kick, like he did against Di Chirico. But man, I just think the speed of Pfeiffer mixes up really well to the body. I just think he breaks Alhassan, maybe a late first round finish, or maybe he does mix in the wrestling and the grappling. I'm not going to really have Alhassan. I already know if I play 150, of course I'm going to have some. Most people out here don't do that. It's going to be a sweat. So if you don't want a sweat a first round, get some Alhassan with you. He's going to be low owned. I'm going to be on the Pfeiffer train though. I'm going to mix in the guys like Maness and stuff that way. But yeah, my hands will be a little sweaty in round one. I'd be lying if it wasn't.
Big balls.
Yeah.
I feel like he'll be like my highest owned underdog. So one of us will have a good night here.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be mixing in like the Nate Maness's more of the world. We'll talk about this next fight. I think this is a good fight to target or to talk about. Grant Dawson, Bobby Green, main event, 5 rounds to work with. Dawson 9,400, Bobby Green 6,800. Grant Dawson minus 525 on Bet Online, and then I look at FanDuel, he's minus 420. So price shopping very important. Plus 310, around plus 400 is the range for Bobby Green. So it's minus 250 to finish. Dawson minus 175. Bobby Green plus 550. So the exact words you said on that last fight is my approach on this fight. I looked at these odds and I'm like, wow, this is way too wide. I want to pick Bobby Green outright. I am going to pick Bobby Green outright. I think these odds are crazy. I really do. Yes, Bobby Green takedown defense is checked out. It looks good. He's mainly fought strikers, so it's hard to put too much into that. Last time he fights a grappler, it's Islam. He gets taken down and submitted shortly after. That fight was on like 9 days notice. Islam's a different beast. There's levels to this. I think he dominate Grant Dawson as well. It's like, man, what if Grant Dawson can't get the wrestling going? Like this line's not even close. It's not even close. Bobby Green, his movement on the feet's very well. Takedown defense, I think, is better than I guess the public thinks. If he's minus 525, Dawson has had cardio issues in the past. He moved camps. It was with James Krause. Now ATT, he's definitely done better there. But the Ricky Glenn fight, it was still only a couple fights ago where that dude had to get carried back to his corner, nothing left. Bobby Green can fight 5 rounds. He has the cardio. And on an 11-fight card, let's just say Bobby Green does lose, but it goes all 25 minutes. And Dawson gets a couple takedowns. He wins, let's say, a 48-47. Bobby Green lands over 5 significant strikes per minute. He scores 50 at 6,800, and Pfeiffer gets a first-round knockout. Dober gets you a 115, whatever it may be. Not many dogs on the card. We've seen crazier things happen. I'm not saying I think he's on the optimal on the loss, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibilities. We're talking dogs that mix in. Your Alhassan is my Bobby Green. I'm going Bobby Green. And also, you get the most leverage. You get off the chalkiest fighter on the card in Grant Dawson. So, yes, I'll still be playing some Grant Dawson, but to the field, I will be more overweight on Bobby Green than Dawson. And at these odds, Bobby Green time, baby. What about you?
Yeah, I did line Dawson like 10% lower than Vegas did. So, like, I would agree that the value would be too high on him, but I think DraftKings is the perfect place to invest in Dawson this week because if he wins, it's coming through the ground, and he scores well when he wins. He's averaging over 101 DraftKings points in his wins, and I think that would be around his floor if he's able to get a win here with an extra possible 2 rounds to work with. I just don't think he's going to want to accept any striking match with Bobby. He's going to try and get the fight to the ground. Once he does, I think he locks up his back, hangs on to control the rest of the time, maybe lands a bunch of strikes along the way. But I just expect Dawson to really score well in a win. And if Bobby does tire him out, comes back, wins late, or wins a decision by winning the last half of the fight, I feel like he's not scoring much at all in the first half of the fight. So maybe that is what takes this fight off the optimal lineup. But I think Bobby's more in play for the knockout. Like, you just gotta, you're the much better striker. Just start swinging before this guy can get you down. If you can knock him out, you break the slate. But to me, I feel like he is going to get enough ownership, or he's the guy I probably get away from, where I really don't want much Bobby, because Dawson is my favorite play on the slate, DraftKings wise. But I put it, I'll probably be like 70-20, something like that, in favor of Dawson in this one. He'll be my highest owned fighter on the card. But at the same time, it'll be I can't fully fade Green, because he should score over 10x if he is able to get a win here. And he is a much better striker. He's got paths to a victory. So I would say it's closer than Vegas says, but good matchup for Dawson to just go out there and rack up DraftKings points.
Yeah, it definitely is a great matchup, and he fits DraftKings scoring perfectly as Dawson. He's minus 525. Like, Dawson might only need one takedown here. Well, minus 525 is telling me he should only need one takedown here, and I just don't agree with that. Very well could happen, though, that he does just need one. But man, Bobby Green's as game as it comes. Completely different matchup. Like Fiziev, he arguably won that fight. How good Fiziev is. Bobby Green's a fighter, man. He's gonna fight for my dollar. His movement on the feet makes him pretty tough to take down. I get it, though. I'm not saying Bobby Green should be a favorite. I'm not saying a 4-10 underdog should be a favorite by any means. It's just Dawson will be, I don't know, with Hernandez favorite now stuff too, 60%. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dawson. I think between 50-60 range. Bobby Green, yeah, you mentioned that's where it's interesting. If Bobby Green's over 30% owned, no, I don't want necessarily that. I think closer to the 25% range on 11 fight card. I think that's fine. But yeah, everything you said is right. I'll be more overweight to the field on Bobby Green than I will Dawson, at least my initial thoughts. It's close though, man. It's going to be a fun fight. It's a great fight for sure. It's something you want to target. 9,400, 6,800, a clash of styles, 25 minutes to work. By far the highest on. What are your thoughts? Like 90% cumulative ownership, 85?
Yeah, probably. I usually start around 80 on the main event. I would think that this should get more, but I do think most of it comes on the Dawson side. So I think I was high 50s Dawson, and then maybe I was mid 20s for Green.
Yeah, I think that Sean V, Bobby Green fights up. This competition should bode well. Yeah, it won't matter if Dawson's got his back really quick, but yeah, at 60%, I just don't see myself getting too overweight. Take a shot on Mandankas, the Dobers, Maratas of the world. So that's how we're seeing it. Again, a lot did change though. Seeing Alexander Hernandez as the favorite at 7,800 put a new wrinkle into this slate. Big Marley, any final thoughts for the people? All of our content will be going up on the site.
Now, hopefully we don't have any Cody Brundages on this card. Just looking for a way out, getting 95-something points in the process. And if that's the case, I think it'll be another good night for SHIPIT Nation. So go over there, sign up, try out that 5-day trial. I think you guys will want to stick around.
Yeah, as long as it's Bobby Green taking the easy way out. Just kidding. Hey, we don't want
I have never been on the other side. I've never been the guy getting his ass kicked, and then I score 95-plus points. It's always me losing to the DQ every single time.
That's because it's like the photographer in Jackson against Dean Barry. It's Alon Patrick against Mason Jones. It's the guys that are getting their ass cooked, and they know they ain't going to come back, and those are the guys. But, hey, as I kept telling everyone else, and they were as tilted as I was, but if I was Cody Brundage, granted, that's why I don't fight for a living, my ass is out of there in a second, too, because he was not in a fun time for 10 minutes. Good luck to all of you guys out there. Again, like button, subscribe button on the way out. Helps us out a ton. Head over to ShipItNation.com. As low as $19 a month, or as low as $19, you can get 5-day mission, MMA, PGA Showdown, NFL, MLB. So much money to be made this week. Finally, man, my Saturday will be fun again with MMA on the screen. Don't have to worry about what to do on a Saturday. Great stuff as always, Big Marley. Our content will be up on the site very shortly after this. Good luck to everybody out there. For Big Marley, I'm Titletown. Good luck.